I'm Supermoon Tarot, and in today's video, we're going to be finding out what they want to happen between you two. We're talking about connection, long-term plans, any of the details in between. It's all important. As you can see, we have 4 groups in front of us. Group number 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to give you a moment to pick the group that you resonate with most. Now that you have, you can go down to the description where you can skip to your designated group and mark timestamp, and let's get started with group number 1. Let's find out what do they want to happen between you two by looking at the cards. We've got 8 of Wands upright, 3 of Wands in reverse, Knight of Swords in reverse, Page of Cups upright, and 5 of Wands in reverse. Ooh. Oh. Okay, I love this because I'm getting both an answer to the initial question, but as per usual with these readings, which I love, I'm getting a lot of context into their past, which is really interesting. So I have a lot of good news, but I have a bunch of stuff I want to go over, and I'm going to actually pull some more cards after this so we can get into a lot more detail. Anyways, let's start off with where they were initially before you two made the connection. My guides are telling me that communication is an important theme in this, so let's keep that in mind. So first, 5 of Wands in reverse. They essentially came from a situation, I don't want to say a situation that others put them in, it's more like their perspective in life. They were really struggling between, do they want to have that sort of relationship kind of love, or that kind of quick, passionate love where, you know, you enjoy a person for a period of time, usually it's very physical, and then you move on and then you see the next person. Not necessarily to be like a player, that's not the vibe I'm getting. It's just some people are kind of in the thrill of the chase and then they move on, but they're also not intentionally putting out the intention to look for and find a long-term relationship. But they started to consider that, and it was a real struggle for them for a while, bouncing back and forth. Am I picking up other relationships? No. Okay, so this is for them before you. They were like pondering it in between being up with other people, essentially. And so they started to, they saw a promise here. They were like, ooh, who are you? What's that? I always like to refer to the Page of Cups as I think you're cute card. But it was more than just passion. As you can see over here, Wands is usually defined by that. It's very, again, you could define it as quick love, as we'll describe it as. But Page of Cups is a lot more invested, especially when emotions are at stake. Things are a lot more serious and vulnerable. And so they were like, hey, this looks promising. I'm into you. I think you're cute. How are you? But with it being a page, it's a bit newer for them. You know what I mean? Like, you got to give them a little bit of a break. They don't exactly know what they're doing. With that in mind, this is what then leads to the sort of confusion going on over here in the Knight of Swords in reverse and the 3 of Wands in reverse. But hold on, I want you to hold on, not only for this reading, but for them too. So because they were initially like, okay, I've figured it out. I've made a decision. I understand what it is now. I no longer am tangled between these two decisions. I want a more serious relationship. Then you beautifully fell into their life. They were like, okay, here we go. Let's try to approach this in a different way we normally do. So they're new to it. It's difficult. This is when they sort of approach you still with a similar, we'll say, tactics as previous interactions with other people, because I can't even call these previous interactions like relationships. They weren't relationships. They kind of, hooked up with someone for a little while, then they went to the next person. And so with the Knight of Swords in reverse, this is a sort of very rushed, scattered kind of energy. It's very verbal, they're very excited, but because there's just too much we'll say gusto behind it, it doesn't necessarily come out in the most fluid, suave, maybe in the best possible way. It's got a lot of good heart behind it, but it shows their strong initiation and intention towards you, essentially, and how strong they feel, but they're approaching it not from a cup's perspective, from a sword perspective. So they're really in their head a lot. You know what I mean? They're trying to be like, okay, I only ever thought with, we'll just describe it as my wand, and now I'm trying to think more with my head. And they're kind of missing, they had the best intentions when they approached you in the first place, when they were thinking more with their heart. Do you see what I'm saying here? And so that is what's causing then sort of, you could say, like the universe is being told to express itself in this way due to their actions in the Three of Wands in reverse. This is when messages aren't really being communicated the best. Sometimes in a Three of Wands in reverse situation, it's just straight up technology is not working out. Text messages aren't going through, you're accidentally missing each other's phone calls, things are getting lost in translation, like they're having a hard time expressing themselves. There just feels like there's almost a sort of disconnect. As you can tell here, communication is really important. The reason why my guide said communication is really important, because whether it's going well or it's having trouble, it shows the desire to want to connect to you. And communicating is something that takes effort. People don't want to, make an effort to figure out what you're thinking or reach out to you unless it's really important. So we can get sort of a tone going on here, if you see what I mean. So the Eight of Wands is really important in contrast to what's going on over here and what they've figured out over here. Remember, we talked about where they came from. So Eight of Wands is super positive because it talks about this beautiful whirlwind romance. Like, they're very into you. It would happen quickly. They're trying to make it happen quickly. We can see that double confirmation over here in the Knight of Swords, that interaction they want between you, between the two of you to happen. They want to, sweep you off your feet. They want excitement, thrillingness, but there is the intention to make it more long term, except because of where they came from, and that's kind of all they know, and what started off maybe on the best foot sort of got convoluted. They are putting themselves in a position to kind of return back to what they know and approach things from sort of we'll just say a wand passionate perspective rather than a cups perspective. Cups is more long-term relationship for this analogy, and wands is more that quick romance we discussed. Now, that doesn't mean they are disinterested in you, or they're like, this is too hard, let me just see what I can get from the situation, move on. Not at all. It's just, definitely don't be surprised if they sort of are approaching you in such a way that it's exciting for both of you, and they have moments of confusion within themselves because they're like, oh no, am I repeating the way I normally used to interact? What am I doing? And they're trying to figure themselves out, because this normally, when it's not in this sort of spread and analogy we're using, is a positive thing. It's the sign of a long-term romance popping up, and it still means that here, but pardon me, I just burped. But pardon me, with the Eight of Wands here, they're getting it confused, essentially, of being like, they're moving things too quickly. Normally it's a good thing because it shows the instant connection, but in this case, they're going to quickly notice their own patterns and sort of, I don't want to say self-implode, but there is that inner turmoil that could possibly show up again of them being like, do I really want a long-term? What am I doing? How do I want to approach this? But it's only because they genuinely are into you that much and want this sort of long-term connection they've been looking for to happen as fast as possible, if that makes sense. So I want to pull some more cards real quick. Yeah. Okay, cool. Not a problem at all. So this again shows their interest in you. I am being shown that there was somebody in the past that kind of started it off, so to speak, that they were, connected to someone, previous serious relationship. I do want to keep in mind this is somebody that they did get over, that it has been a very long time. You don't need to feel jealous or worried if they're going to come back in the picture, but they sort of started it inspired this other person to date a bunch of other people, not get into a serious relationship because of how much it was painful for them to deal with this. Now, in the Three of Swords in reverse, this talks about them sort of prematurely moving on. They haven't quite gotten over the situation yet, but I want to clarify this. They've gotten over the person, but they still are struggling overcoming the full realization of how much it was painful to be let down by someone they trusted. Remember, the idea of it, not the person. However, again, this is a positive omen. They are trying to get over it as quickly as possible because they feel such a strong connection to you, and they essentially want that, they want to put you into the slot that they have made unavailable for so long, if that makes sense. The relationship slot, if you will. It sounds so silly putting it that way, but you get what I'm saying. But over here in the Four of Wands in reverse, it is again a positive sign that both of you can work through these issues with them, but it has to be both of them, them and you. And it's honestly more on your part, not because you're someone that isn't willing to do that or, resistant, but if you have a moment where you think, I don't know if I want to deal with this kind of thing. Is it going to be a big issue? Understandable questions you're asking yourself. Essentially, they're there saying, I am willing to work with you. I'm not going to push you away. We can talk about it. Just give me some time and patience, but I am going to make an effort to get over this, but I need a support system in order to get through this. I need to know that you're not going to judge me as I'm, overcoming and facing some pain and trust issues in the past. Again, the idea of it, not the person. But then we get another beautiful sort of thing going on over here in the Hanged Man in reverse. Basically, I love it, the woman, I love that. I just realized the Hanged Woman here. This is them essentially saying, I'm moving forward. Yes, I don't have everything, perfectly worked out, but it's best that I move forward in the relationship, even if I don't. It's time, whether I'm ready or not, I'm here. Yes, I've got issue to work through, and I'm not hiding away from that, and I want to work through them, but understand that I'm not meant to be someone that's, sits on the sidelines even longer and tries to feel perfect and then finds the perfect person. They're not rushing into a relationship just to be in a relationship. They're genuinely into you. So they're kind of saying, can you please take me, or leave me as is? I'm going to improve. It's going to get better. It's not going to be a difficult process, but understand that there is some improvement and not fully worked out issues that are sorting themselves out. Again, this doesn't mean it's going to be hugely tumultuous. It just means that you'll have one moment where you feel like everything's moving smoothly, everything's moving so quickly, and if they seem like they're sort of sorting things out mentally and they seem regretful, they're not regretful of being with you. They're just like, am I moving too quickly? Is this a repeated scenario of the past? Am I making the right decisions? And then they go back to feeling confident and comfortable with the whirlwind romance. So yeah, overall, pretty positive. I love this for you and for them. If you enjoyed this reading, please consider giving it a like, comment, subscribe. Helps out the channel like you would not believe. Have a beautiful day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And let's get ready for group number 2. Group number 2, let's find out what do they want to happen between you two by looking at the cards. We've got Ace of Pentacles upright, 2 of Pentacles upright, 6 of Wands upright, 10 of Swords in reverse, and the Sun card upright. I want to pull some more cards for this one, but I'm going to read this first before I do so it doesn't take up the whole board. But this is troublesome, especially among so much positivity. Often when this type of thing, listen, and oh, sorry about that. My readings, when it comes to the way cards are read, I do not read them traditionally. So there could be tons of negative cards and I could still see so much positivity amongst it. And it's not it's not, like me to see one thing and see an issue for the whole spread, but it's got a lot of context behind it when we get behind all this. So let's just get immediately started. So let's talk about the positive stuff going on here. I can see there's sort of an investment going on they feel towards you, that's sort of an offer. Sometimes this can actually take the tone of a form of a gift or something like that. I'm not really seeing that in this case, but I usually like to think of the Ace of Pentacles as a seed being planted. And it's them saying, yeah, hi, this is new. I'm interested to see where this goes. I have some long-term plans here, but we have to wait and see, how you, the person watching this, responds. Do you want to water this and see if it grows and see if we can have some sort of garden together, so to speak? And then over here with Two of Pentacles, I can see they find sort of a beautiful inner harmony and balance with the two of you guys. And even over here in the Six of Wands, I can see that as it's been beautifully building and they see how great you guys go together, there's a certain enthusiasm. They feel like they've won by being with you. It's a lot of positivity behind it. Even over here with the Sun card, this is happy times, feeling comfortable in your own skin, lots of optimism and bliss. But it sort of takes a darker undertone when we have the Ten of Swords in reverse. The Ten of Swords in reverse pops up when somebody feels like they successfully dodged a bullet. And that's a weird tone to put on the connection between the two of you. Why do they feel like by being with you, they dodge someone else or something else? It could be a relationship, person, something, whatever else that may be. It's great that they feel like they won with you, but often it's not the best sign if they're still focusing on something else and there's an attention being put there. And imagine being excited and someone hoists you up and looking in your face and going, I love you, I'm so happy we made this connection. They look at you and go, I'm so glad I'm with you instead of them. And you're like, what? What did you say? And then over here, there's too much simplicity going on. If you notice, I'm not getting any cups cards. I'm not getting any lovey-dovey cards. It just doesn't, there's almost a weird formality between the two of you. They don't necessarily see it that way. They feel there's a connection, but they are unaware that subconsciously they're not approaching it in the most genuine, upfront, hey, I'm with you. I see, fireworks type of connection. It's more of like a beautiful contract of like, we go well together. Let's be together. Isn't this nice? We're two beautiful people and everything seems to be going swimmingly, so we must be in love. It's very that kind of vibe. Especially over here in the Two of Pentacles, Six of Wands, and Sun, that also has one more connotation I want to point out. So the Sun card, in any other case, is just a very happy sign that everything's going swimmingly between the two of you and there's you get along great. Doesn't have any other context. But in this case, it's almost like they want everything to be smooth, happy, and perfect, no challenge. That's it. That's super important to them. They do not want any challenge. We can see over here it's important for them to not see any other challenges in life. And over here in the Six of Wands, there's an achievement, a feeling of getting a trophy by having a successful relationship where there's a lot of balance and nothing difficult. And they just kind of want to party and have fun, and not in a way that feels like, sometimes when people get together, they do not have the intention of being together in a romantic kind of way. They just want to have fun, have a good time. I like to call it quick romance, you know what I mean? And it just is what it is, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just depends on everyone being on the same page. But in this case, there is the intention to have something more long-term with you. It is there. There is a connection going on, but they just want the whole relationship to be a fun, happy time. There's a lot of context going on here being like, don't ruin it. I don't want to fight. Don't pick a fight with me. I don't do it. Let's just smile and have fun. I don't want to talk about that. And it's got a weird tone popping in, and it's important to talk about. Again, last thing I'm going to talk about before I point this out is the Two of Pentacles going on here. Why did you not get a Two of Cups situation. Two of Cups is about a relationship of equal exchange and energy and love and sharing with each other. It's beautiful. It's a lot of partnership as well as romance. It's probably one of the most idealized cards you can get for any type of relationship spread. And then over here, it's just more they want every sort of cog or gear to be in the right place of the machine and to work cohesively, and that's all that's important to them. And that's a weird context to put on love. Do you see what I'm saying here? So let's pull from a few more cards so we can get a little more detailed what's going on here. I'll use this deck. Okay, let me pull a few more. This is actually more oriented around you. And this is our Ten of Swords in reverse. Yes, okay, I totally knew it. Yeah, okay, so there was somebody else from the past. It does look like it was difficult. We even have a Two of Pentacles in reverse situation directly correlating to what we were talking about before. Something that was really not cohesively working in the previous relationship was the lack of balance. This could have been anything. Maybe their schedules didn't work. Maybe they always felt like one was happy when the other one was sad, and then it would switch off. It just felt difficult. They clearly kept coming back to one another, which is why the dysfunction continued on for so long, because they were genuinely really into each other. This was, I don't even want to say this was like compatibility. It's just more like they were into each other, and the only reason why they're not with them is because of the sort of dysfunction, and not just the dysfunction on sort of bad timing between them and this other person, but the way they approached it. They allowed their energy to get super burnt out with this other person, and they still weirdly are holding a place for them in their heart. It's concerning. If you notice over here their perspective, they are defending this other person that can be represented over here in the Two of Pentacles in reverse and the Lover's card. And so over here, they are not necessarily looking towards them anymore, or, you know, setting the mindset of like, the second I'm not with you, the person watching this, I'm going to be with this other person. It's not like that. They are putting their intention towards you. But this defensiveness of not wanting to let go of this other person, it's almost like this idea where they're like, why can't I be friends with my ex? Whatever. And they're not going to intentionally do anything with them. And you don't have to worry about them cheating or anything like that. But it's like, well, then why do you still need to know them? Why are you defending this so intensely? You know what I mean? And then over here is like sort of the big question you're going to have to ask yourself. So I apologize, but this relationship is represented by the Two of Cups in reverse. It's an incompatibility thing. It just is what it is. It's not always easy to face or hear, but it's just, it's almost sort of takes some stress off of the whole thing, because you think in your head, oh, well, I'm not doing anything wrong, and, you know, they're just them. It wasn't meant to be between the two of us, especially with the way they handle things and the way you're being represented in the Star card. Totally different perspectives on life. This person has lots of obstacles and things they're not willing to face or let go, and you are smooth sailing, but we'll get into that in one moment. So I can see a decision needs to be made, and very, like, once you make that decision, that's it. You're sticking with it, sort of thing. And with the Two of Swords, this is somebody who's thinking both with their heart and their head. It's important to take both into accountability for practical reasons, and like, what do you genuinely feel? Does this feel like the deep romance you've always wanted? Is this the person you want to spend the rest of your life with? Because they are making long-term investments and offering them to you and have the intention for that. But you know what I mean? But then over here with the Star card, this is the other option. So these are the two options, the two different swords you're choosing between. This is a version of you that doesn't quite know who they're going to be with next, but they are going to be with someone. You're not given the answer right now, and you're not being given specifics right now. It's sort of a, hey, are you comfortable stepping out into the unknown and trusting that everything's going to be okay? The Star card says it will be, that you're on the right path in this direction, and that you are meant to find the person you are truly going to be with and be happy with. And you're anything that feels like you're not truly being yourself and everything feels right to you, but not because of balance and you want it to be forced happy. It's just a beautiful natural flow where it doesn't take any effort. This is when it feel like you're naturally compatible with your job, your romance, whatever. This is the other option. It does involve another relationship, and one that is much more what you've been hoping and dreaming for. And in the end, you just have to decide, where do you want to go, essentially. But if you do go this route, you're going to have to be like, sorry, other person, it's just not happening. So the answer is yes, they want something to develop between the two of you. They are interested, but there's a lot of context going on that you can mull over and, from there make your own decisions. So I hope this was helpful and you enjoyed listening to this reading. If you did, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out the channel like you would not believe. I am wishing you the best no matter what you choose. There is no wrong decision as far as anything is concerned. Life is about learning things and understanding things, and either way you are. So I'm wishing you the best. I'll see you in the next one, and let's get ready for group number 3. Group number 3. Let's find out, what do they want to happen between you two by looking at the cards. We've got 4 of Pentacles upright, 9 of Swords in reverse, the Lover's card in reverse, don't worry about that, 2 of Wands upright, and the 10 of Cups in reverse. Interesting. I got all the context I need by looking at these cards, but my spirit guides said that it's important that I pull some more cards after we go through the first flow. So that's fine. So let's go over this first, and then we will pull some more cards because it is important to... It's interesting. They want me to ask the question again, which is interesting. So let's get into specifics. I can see why, though, because of how much... the other person's emotions are coming in stronger than the exact answer. I am getting the answer, and we can get into some more specifics, but essentially understanding their perspective is very important. And the way, I'm not trying to go on a rant here, we're going to go into the actual reading, but when you read tarot, if somebody else's emotions, or if you're reading for yourself, if your own emotions come in stronger than the actual, question itself, clearly that needs to be dealt with more than the other thing. Do you see what I'm saying here? So it's important nonetheless. We do have an answer for the question being asked for this overall video, but what's going on is important as a whole, as usual, all the details. So over here, you were being represented by the 4 of Pentacles, and this is just how they're seeing the situation. This doesn't mean this is the way you are. And this is them being represented over here by the 9 of Swords in reverse. So currently at the moment, and keep in mind, it does not mean that you are this way. It's just sort of their own, you could say, anxieties that are popping up, and they're popping in really hard. They feel they're not quite getting from you an openness that they would like more often. They're kind of seeing you right now as a little more closed off. I feel like that's almost harsh and oversimplifying it, but let's just go with it for the sake of not rambling too much. And they feel like they're not fully able to read you and know what you want. Not close, so that it's starting to then make them think, do you, the person watching, do they like me? I can't quite read them. Am I unable to understand their emotional, whatever they're putting out there because I'm not good at reading them? Or maybe, you, the person watching this, doesn't want me to know because they're not interested in me. And it's just kind of sort of an inner monologue they're playing in their head. Again, it doesn't mean that you're projecting yourself this way, but sometimes you can be as open and as straightforward as you want to a person. If they are in a certain state of mind, they are going to get whatever they're seeing from the perspective, it's kind of out of your control, essentially. And then over here, we have them, I would say, perfectly expressed in the Nine of Swords in reverse. Now, the good thing about it being Nine of Swords in reverse and gives extra reassurance to their perspective is that this is sort of what I like to describe as the worrywart card. And what I mean by that is the Nine of Swords represents just general anxieties. It can, when you're repeating an idea over and over and over your head, it's very overwhelming. There's a lot of like plagued anxiety, surrounding you via this issue. The stress card, essentially. And when it's in reverse, it basically implies, yes, you are feeling those emotions, but you're not actually feeling them for a valid reason. Your emotions are valid, but nothing actually happened. It compared to if it was upright, then someone's like, I'm really worried. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot at stake. It's understandable you'd be worried. You're appropriately reacting. This is more like, are they being closed off, or are you just freaking out and thinking of them that way? Now, weirdly enough, this and this is an unusually positive situation going on here. They are clearly very into you and do want to see a relationship coming into fruition. I'll just put that out there due to the subtext, because they're so overwhelmed by it, because they want to know what you're thinking. They want to feel this connection. They want to feel like they can comfortably move forward and that they can trust in building something with you. They're into you, especially when we have the Lovers card in reverse over here. But as you notice, both of these cards are looking over this one. And this card represents this idea that they are thinking of being in a relationship with you and a deeper sense of love. This wouldn't be like a temporary, they're just think you're attractive and, they get whatever they want from you and leave. They see something deeper going on here. But because of these worrying feelings and how they're viewing the perspective, they're getting in their head too much and thinking, is this capable of being a relationship if it continues like this? Now, keep in mind, this is not a huge thought that they constantly repeat in their head and they're getting ready to ditch out on you. It's more of that one moment they're happy and in bliss with you, and then the next they're like, I don't know, did I read them correctly? I can't quite tell what they're thinking and feeling. And then this then proceeds them to start be like, are we good together? Is this a good route to go? Is this even going to continue in the long term? Do they want to be with me? This is the sort of inner monologue I'm picking up. And this is where we get the Two of Wands, another positive intake, but also a positive perspective due to the Lovers being in reverse. Usually when it's in reverse, people just read it as like, it's not working, it's not meant to be a relationship, they're not into you. Not at all. They are in sort of the planning stage. They unfortunately are not in a sort of Three of Wands situation or Four of Wands situation, which means they are stepping forward to overcome their, anxieties. They're trying to reach out and ask you, hey, I'm perceiving you as someone that's kind of closing off emotionally from me. Is that correct? Or did I perceive that wrong? And proactively trying to fix their own issues and whatever they think they are perceiving. They're not really there right now. They're more of sort of in the waiting phase, the planning phase. But that planning phase involves them thinking of long-term fantasies of being like, I'd like this to happen. Maybe if I take them on a certain amount of dates, or I try this. So they're very in the head. So if it seems slow at all in the development process right now, it's because they're in their own head too much, and for a variety of reasons. A lot of those reasons are going towards positive pursuits and long-term goals they want to have with you. And this is why when they have these moments, this card interaction shows us the reassurance that these moments of like, oh no, should we even be a relationship, are just temporary things that they mull over for a second and then let go. But it does unfortunately keep popping up due to the way they interact with everything. But then we get a huge clue going on over here in the Ten of Cups in reverse. This usually pops up when, in this case scenario, it's popping up to show us that there's something in their past that's really plagued them to feel this way. This could have been a relationship itself that went wrong, but I'm getting way stronger of a family vibe. It feels like their family growing up was potentially tumultuous, and maybe their parents didn't have a good relationship, and it's sort of unconsciously imprinting on the way they approach things, and this is what's causing all of this sort of fear factor going on the second you guys are getting closer. They're worried, if this is related to the family, we're going to be pulling more cards to figure out that. They're thinking, oh no, is it going to repeat? Am I going to make the right decisions, or am I going to be like, my family? I don't want to be. They haven't quite gotten over it, and it's a big deal to them. So let's pull some more cards. Oh, interesting. I'm looking over the meaning of this, and my guides are saying I need to pull some more cards. Yeah. Yes. Okay, cool. Then it's very important that you know this. Okay, not a problem. Okay, so in a weird way, this is reassuring. This is the confirmation of their mother and father. And with the Five of Wands, this shows the tumultuous activity. Five of Wands, and we're going to get into more specifics, by the way, about them being into you. That will be extra comforting and extra confirming, but some last minute things we're going to go over real quick. But with the Five of Wands sort of vibe and attitude, this is when two people constantly keep baiting one another, and so the other one feels enticed to get back into the conflict, and then essentially they keep going on and on and on, and no one ever seems to compromise or come to a happy conclusion that fixes anything. That is an overwhelming environment to be in, and we can have the utmost compassion, and depending on wherever you're from, empathy for that they went through this sort of scenario. And this is where their inner sort of monologue comes in through anxieties. That's why it keeps going back and forth. It's like so the way the universe works is there is a language going on. You are living in a language, and you often repeat what you haven't sorted out. And so for them, because this was the scenario of this back and forth and never quite getting fully grounded on a decision, because it's not fully healed, it is repeating within their head with the way they handle and go back and forth with emotions, essentially. So that is where they're coming from. But over here in the Seven of Pentacles, we can see the confirmation that yes, they are into you. They are setting up some long-term investments here. When they say they're into you or expressing themselves, they really mean it. But they are still very much waiting on, they need absolute confirmation from you of, you're not going to be going out on a limb here. You're not going to be taking any chances by being like, hi, other person, yes, I am very into, and yes, I'd like to see something come about. They are preparing, they're waiting, they just need to know, is this worth preparing? They're going to wait, they're into, they just really desperately need that for their peace of mind, and you can give that to them. But again, their anxieties pop up again when we have these two cards. With the High Priestess in reverse, we can see that they are incorrectly seeing the situation via how they're seeing you as closed off. They're just totally in their head that's wrong. So that means that you're actually not being emotionally closed off in the least. We already knew that, but that's extra confirmation. This is just what they're going through. And if you think that you're coming across a certain way, you don't need to apologize for a version of yourself you're not actually being, in that they're just working out their own issues. It's creating sort of not rose-colored glasses, but Five of Wands colored glasses, so to speak. And then over here in the Three of Cups in reverse, there is a fear of cheating. So I kind of get the vibe that cheating also might have been a scenario that popped up in their relationship, in their family situation. So a lot of irrational fears are coming to the surface. It's like they're having to work out their family's problems because their family never dealt with their problems, which is not a fun burden to carry. I feel so bad for them. Who hasn't had their own issues to work out, though? So anyways, long story short, yes, they're very into you. All is good. They just, if you notice any sort of funny behavior or slowness to the relationship, the pacing, this is just due to their own, past that they're overcoming. So definitely feel free to reach out, give them some reassurance, just be gentle and patient with them, and see where it goes. If you enjoyed this reading, please consider giving it a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out the channel like you would not believe. Have a beautiful day. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And let's get ready for group number 4. Group number 4. Let's find out, what do they want to happen between you two by looking at the cards. We've got Knight of Wands in reverse, Page of Pentacles in reverse, Nine of Cups in reverse, Eight of Pentacles upright, and Ace of Swords in reverse. Give me just one moment to look at what's going on here. Interesting. Okay, so we kind of have an unusual, you could say, subtext going on here. So the thing is, yes, they are into you, and we can get a lot more specific, and I'm excited to tell you about it. But there's some interesting things that are up in the air, so to speak, and it can really go either way. This is a very rare scenario where it could go either way, and it's not more definitively plotted, so to speak. And it really is up to them in this sort of internal battle they're going through. It's not necessarily anything that you're doing. I mean, you're welcome to speak to them about it and get things more sorted, but you're not doing anything wrong for making them more or less interested. In fact, it's not about that, and we'll get into specifics. So their devotion, if you will, is being shown over here in the Nine of Cups in reverse and the Eight of Pentacles. They're very into you. There is a lot of, it's interesting. There's both the simultaneous effort in what would look like the current investment being shown, like they're currently investing in a lot. And then over here, which we'll get more, which is important to talk about, we'll get into greater subtext of the potential long-term investment. So right now they're investing a lot of time, energy, and effort, but that sort of, is it going to go in the long term or not, really depends on them. For the moment, they do not see you as somebody who's just like a piece that they're enjoying and that they're going to move on. Not at all. They're really into you. In fact, they could not sing your praises higher being represented by how they view you in the Nine of Cups. They are just, you are pretty much everything that they could ever want, essentially. Not only in sort of, you know how there's like a list format if somebody asks you who's your dream person, but you know it's not until you actually meet somebody that there are traits you might have not even considered important, that when somebody else embodies it, you're like, oh wow, this is, I didn't even know I should be asking for this. They have it. I'm so pumped. So you're seriously like 110% of the person they've wanted to be with, and not for superficial reasons. They're really into you. They're really potentially even in love with you, which is great and exciting. And they're really willing to go the extra mile to make sure that you're happy and that everything's working out well between the two of you. However, there starts to become a strain on it in a unique, unusual way with what we have going on in the past, what's going on now, and the potential where it could go. So the Nine of Cups being in reverse and the Eight of Pentacles starts to have a strenuous feeling onto it when we have the Ace of Swords in reverse. This is showing when somebody has bad judgment and they have created a new kind of mindset that they're like, when they're with you, this is a new way that they're approaching relationships. The way that they're interacting with you is not a way they've interacted with others, which is beautiful because it makes the connection between the two of you extra special. But the way the strain is starting to develop and could continue on if it's not addressed, you know what I mean? Especially with the Ace of Swords popping up, you know, I take that back. You know, this is a case where you want to be really honest with each other and you should approach them about this. But this is showing, this is where their bad judgment comes in and they really need to cut it out, essentially. The new mindset's great, but the strain they're putting on it is the bad judgment. So the strain is when we have a Nine of Cups in reverse scenario. This is when, if things are absolutely 110% perfect, they start to freak out. And this is when we sort of get a perfectionist trait of how can I fix it? How can I bring it back to the way it was? Everything's got to be absolutely perfect. Now keep in mind, this does not mean you're under any stress to be the perfect version of yourself that they see you as and to live up to some sort of crazy idealized standard. That's not the scenario. It's more like, let's say you express yourself and there's a disagreement and you both have like a little bit of a what is it called? A tiff? That's what it's called, between the two of you, and it's just small or whatever. They wouldn't then be like, oh no, you're not my idealized person to be with. They would then be like, what's going on? Our relationship, we shouldn't be fighting at all. What should happen? How can we change this? How can we discuss this? Blah, blah, blah. And they just kind of put too much onto it. Even the act of being overly lavish to starts to become kind of straining subconsciously for them, and they're putting themselves through a scenario they don't need to be put through, especially when you're not putting them through it. You get what I'm saying? Now, the reason why all of this is because of their past as the Knight of Wands in reverse. And if you've been here for a while, you know the context with the Knight of Wands in reverse. It is taking that sort of common case we always talk about. Now, this is where it goes up in the air, so don't worry about this is who they are now. This isn't who they are now. This is who they once were. This is who they are now, working hard, loving you, being really into you. And then this is essentially who they were. In the past, they were someone who I like to describe as romantically ADD. They often filled people with excitement and lavishness and connection, and then they got bored and moved on quickly. It doesn't mean they are somebody who was in love a bunch of times and falsely put that out there to their other partners. It's more that when they lavish someone with this sort of connection, they're very prideful of how easy it is for them. It's sort of like a fun game. It's something they both enjoy, but something they enjoy, bestowing on others. Now, many others would say this is cruel, but this isn't their intention, but nonetheless, it is difficult to go through. If you ever get a Nine of Wands in reverse, again, tarot just has the meaning that you imply to it, but I often find this pops up when somebody says, but they felt like my soulmate. It's like, they're not your soulmate. They are just that good at being magnetic and likable and making you feel special. It doesn't mean that you aren't those things, but the connection is unfortunately something they can bestow upon multiple people. Again, this can come across as a player type of card. This is sort of kind of up in the air. I'm not quite able to read the context of them. I kind of get the vibe that they're not, but in some cases, people are intentionally going out there. They know what they're doing. There's a self-awareness to it. And other times, they're just living their best ADD romantic life and unfortunately leaving a string of broken hearts behind them. It just is what it is, but they're not trying to put anyone down or put anyone into a difficult position. They're afraid of who they once were, and this is where the perfectionism comes in. They don't want to be that person. As soon as they were aware of it or aware they didn't want to be this person anymore, they changed, especially when they met you. They did not want it to be the way it once was. They are afraid of this short-term attention span they can have in romance, and they just want to make sure that everything's absolutely perfect and stimulating for them. They don't get bored or anything like that. I can't say that they won't get bored, and to be honest with you, it doesn't really feel like they will. It's more just they're so in fear of it, they're not aware that they're genuinely having a connection, and when you have a genuine connection with someone, you don't easily get bored. You see what I'm saying? So the Page of Pentacles traditionally has this sort of fun tone behind it. This often pops up when people get wedding rings or fun presents. It is a token of investment to say, yeah, I'm really into you and I want to prove it to you this way. If you notice, they're turning towards the Knight of Wands. But I'm being told it doesn't mean they're going to go back to that and they're going to ditch you. It's a sort of up in the air, that their mindset is they're acutely aware of who they once were. They're afraid they're going to sort of give that token of investment to the old person they once were, and that's going to be who they are forever. Will this be the long-term thing that will have more investment built behind it? And will they have the strength to continue being this person? Keep in mind, this does not mean they're going to go out and cheat on you. That's not the vibe. This is not someone who's a cheater. They just sort of experience the person for a couple weeks, move on to a new person. It's very like next person, next person, next person. But they're so afraid because they don't want to lose you. But in turn, when you talk to them and have that honest conversation, as we talked about over here in the Ace of Swords, in turn, they're answering their own questions. If you're so concerned that you're going to hurt this other person and you don't want to, and you're making all this effort to be into them, everything's going to be a-okay. You're good. You're proactive. You're clearly into them. You're good. You're not going to lose. You're not going to get bored. Everything's good. This wasn't the way it was before, so that you're making the correct changes. Just don't overstress it. Everything's going to be okay. So to put it bluntly, yeah, they really are into you. They want to see it grow into something very significant in the long term. It's a big game changer that you came into their life. It's just they have a little bit of internal conflict they're working through. And you, if you want to, you can have an honest conversation with them and have that, have that experience. I will tell you, though, there will probably be resistance initially of them being like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Everything's fine. What do you mean? And it'll take a second before they'll loosen up and, start to relax and be more open to it. Just give them a second. Don't be mad at them. Just be patient, but it will happen. Anyways, if you enjoyed this reading, please consider giving it a like, comment, and subscribe. Helps out the channel like you would not believe. Have a beautiful day. I will see you in the next one.